Hey guys, so two things. I wanted to let you know if you didn't see it. I posted in the Google Classroom a list of cubes and squares for the numbers 1 through 64. Hopefully, you won't need to use all of them, but they should come in handy when you're working on your IXL skills over squares and cubes, which you're going to get assigned later this week. Today, I want to sit here and go over the got it problems with you so you can check and see if you did them correctly when you did them in your book. So, I've got my Desmos Scientific Calculator up here in case anybody wants another look at how to work it when we're doing these types of problems. Now, I highly recommend you don't use the fraction. You can, but it's easier to do it one at a time. I can try to do the first one as a fraction, but I'm not quite sure how it will work out. So let's do our square root button. Then we'll do our fraction button. Oh, there we go. We've got it. So on the top, we need a 9. And on the bottom, we need a 16. Now, as you can see, your answer is shown over here as a decimal, but if you would like it as a fraction, which I would prefer you write it as a fraction, then you want to click this little button over here with the fraction symbol there. And voila, it tells us that the answer for A is, if I can get my pen to write here, 3/4. Now, let's look at the next one. For B, it gives us 0.81 and asks us for the square root. So let's get a clear line here on our calculator. We're going to put in our decimal, 0.81. Oh, sorry, guys. I forgot to do my square root symbol first. So do your square root symbol first, 0.81. And we see that it's 0.9. Now, on B, you'll notice they use the plus or minus sign in front. So what that tells us is that they want our answer to also have plus or minus in front of it, 0.9. Let's go on to the next one. Now here you notice they just have a negative outside. When you have the negative outside of the square root symbol, what they're asking for is the negative number that can be squared to get 49. The negative number that times itself equals 49. So on our calculator, we're still going to come over here. You could do it like this, put the negative sign first, and then put the square root, just so it looks exactly like it looks in your book. Punch in 49. And as you can see, it gives us the answer as -7. So if you use this calculator to type things in exactly as they appear on the page, it's going to give you the right answer. Okay? But what this is telling us is that the negative is outside. So what they're looking for is the negative number that you can square to get 49. Now, this next one, we have the square root with -100 under it. Well, you might say, oh, I know that. It's -10. But it's not, guys. Remember, if the negative sign is underneath the radical or the square root symbol, it is going to be undefined or there is no solution. So we can come over here and do this little circle with a line through it saying there's no solution for that problem. When we come down to the next set of examples and got it problems, they're showing us these little equations. And I talked to you guys on the earlier video how you want to solve this. They're asking us what number squared is equal to 289. So to find out what number squared equals 289, we need to find the square root of 289. So I'm going to come over to my calculator. I'm going to press my square root button. I'm going to type in 289, and I find out that the square root of 289 is 17. So we know that A equals 17. Again, it's the same thing over here. They're asking us what number squared equals 0.09. Again, in order to do that, I hit my square root button. I type in my decimal, just like it appears on the page, and then I hit equals. And as you can see, it tells us that the square root of 0.09 is 0.3. So m equals 0.3. Now let's try this next one. They're telling us that some number squared is 4 over 25. So again, if you really want to, we can use our fraction button and we can put it under the radical sign. So let's come over here. We'll type in our radical sign and our fraction button, and we'll type in 4 on the top and 25 on the bottom. And again, it gives us our answer as a decimal point. But guys, if the problem is written as a fraction, I want your answer as a fraction. If it's written as a decimal in the problem, then your answer is a decimal. But here, the problem is written as a fraction, so I would like to have your answer as a fraction. So if you don't know what that is, you can come over here and click this fraction button. And it will show you that the square root of 4 over 25 equals 2/5. The other way that you can do these without using the fraction button is to punch in the top number first and then punch in the bottom number and do it separately and then put it back together as the fraction when you're done. Now, these last few are cube roots. Now remember, we need to use a different button for cube roots than we do for square roots. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down and get the little radical sign with an N. And first it's going to ask us, okay, what number is above your radical? Well, over here, if you look, the number above the radical sign is 3. So we want to type that in first, but then we want to come down and highlight so we can type the number in underneath. So our number is 729, and it tells us the cube root of 729 is 9. So we can come over to our got it problem, and the answer is 9. Again, remember with cube roots, you can have a negative under the radical sign. And we talked about that yesterday, because when you multiply one negative times another negative, you get a positive. But when you're cubing something, you're multiplying it 3 times. So that next time you multiply a negative number times a positive, which leaves you with a negative. So let's come over here and plug it into our calculator. We get our radical sign with the N over it. We say, hey, our radical sign has a 3 over it. So we punch that in and we come over here. And remember, we have this negative sign, so we want to punch that in first and then type in our number. And our calculator tells us that the cube root of negative 64 equals -4. Make sure you get your negative sign in there, guys. I almost forgot it. Now, when you come over to J, which is our very last one on the got it problems, we are going to do the exact same thing we've been doing with these cube roots. We click our little radical sign with the N. The number over our radical sign is 3. The number under our radical sign is 1,000. So we type that in, and we find out that the cube root of 1,000 is 10. Now, one thing I want to let you know, because you might run into this when you are looking at your IXL skills. What you might see up here at the very top is a square root can be positive or negative. A cube root cannot. It's either positive because the number underneath the radical is positive, or it's negative because the number underneath the radical is negative. That's a difference between cube roots and square roots. So you're not going to see this plus or minus sign in front of a cube root symbol. You're only going to see it in front of a square root symbol because it only applies to even powers like 2, 4, 6, and 8. Any odd roots or odd powers are going to have the negative sign underneath the radical when you undo them. So that's just a reminder for you guys when you're working on your IXL. Remember, if it's a square root symbol and there's a negative underneath it, it's an undefined answer. We can't figure out what that is yet. All right, guys, you now need to work on your independent practice. numbers 1 through 22. I do want you guys to try the first part of the hot problems. You don't have to do the word problems on there, but the first few, I would like you to try those. So hopefully you guys will let me know if you have any questions, and I hope that this video helped you out.